Hello and welcome back for a battle at the top of the standings. 100 Thieves versus TSM. 100 Thieves come into this week on a 4-0 game win streak with a roster we won't see again. Amid roster confusion during Rift Rivals and the new jungler you see here, we took a moment with Coach Prawley to get some clarity.
Big takeaways from Rift Rivals was, I guess, we got to question our read on the meta a bit more. I think everyone in NA got to watch the European games, so we knew what we were going into. And everyone in NA kind of took the pride route and decided to play against their best to see if we can beat it, and no one could really beat it. So I think we learned a lot from Rift Rivals. Team atmosphere is really good right now. Everyone's really eager to improve because, you know, we're kind of taking a step back, adding a completely new member 3 weeks into the split. So we're kind of relearning a few new things, and we're trying to push forward some of our strategies that we hadn't completed yet. And is a good fit for the team. I'm pretty happy with how he's been performing, and right now it's just up to how far we can push him into improving and fitting in with us better.
Citing pride as one of the big reasons that NA fell short against EU, but recognizing again that with that kind of punch to the face, they need to make some changes to come back even stronger this time around. With that, someday back in the lineup, and Onda will be slotting into that jungler position.
And obviously, I think we're all excited to see someday back. I felt bad for Brandini kind of getting the brunt of that pride going up against the Aatrox a couple times.
Right.
In a funnel comp.
Yeah, no help coming against a Nocturne as well.
Yeah.
So he, you know, I didn't think too badly of Brandini, but someday was playing one of the best top laners in the league, so very excited to see him back in. And Onda, when we saw him last split playing on FlyQuest, he had some good games, some bad games. Looked really good on things like Jax and Zach, and not so much on the other champions.
Yeah, and I think with Someday, I'm going to be looking to him to really step up and be a carry for this team, because you're losing a little bit of veteran presence with Meteos. You're hoping that the rest of the team, like Afremu, can step up in that way, and it's all on Someday, Ryu, and Cody to be the big carries for that team.
All right, now on the flip side, TSM, they had the week off, and they now have a chance to take down 100 Thieves with a new roster and leapfrog ahead in the standings. Again, the only 4-2 team we didn't see play last week.
Yeah, and I think they might have had some of the most to gain with the time off. They could sit there, practice their strategies, watch what was happening in Rift Rivals. I'm sure European teams scrimmed these guys, that they were not just sitting idle and watching the tournament go by them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they got a good taste of that EU meta themselves and hopefully picked up some things.
And I want to see what their read is, because I have seen them attempting to pick up a lot of things. I know Sven has actually put in over 100 games on mages in the bottom lane and found a decent amount of success with them. I know Mithy has played a bunch of Pyke, a bunch of Gragas, all these things that TSM is practicing but never putting on stage.
Right.
Now that they've had this off time with Lustboy as the head coach instead of Song, will we see some changes to the TSM strategies today?
Even more experimentation out of Bjergsen in the mid lane. The Smite mid laners coming out too.
Yeah, some Smite stuff. They were practicing some funnel stuff in solo queue about a week and a half ago. And one of the things that happened with TSM last year in particular too was they were practicing a lot of strategies. Bjergsen's Galio was a meme for the first week or two before he finally mastered it. And hopefully we see a similar thing happen with the new strategies emerging.
All right, well, as the teams load into Champion Select, it's our turn to hand it off to the casters to get us into the game.
Thank you very much, Dash. We are hopping into Champion Select now. Let's see how these two teams at the top will go about battling it out here today. Yasuo and Syndra banned out by 100 Thieves. TSM going to respond by keeping Aatrox out of the game. I expect we're going to see a lot of that portrait on the ban list these days, as Nocturne will also get banned out.
Yeah, expecting a Zoe somewhere in here too, potentially Kindred, which is a top tier jungler. But Pyke, both guys can play. And, ooh, Swain actually ends up being the champion. Interesting, because TSM hasn't really played that much Swain. It's been a lot of bruisers, 2 Aurelia, 2 Darius games for Bjergsen out of his 6.
Well, we did hear that Sven had been playing some mages in the bottom lane, so might be a ban towards that as well. You never know exactly, as Morgana will be the final ban from the side of TSM, and 100 Thieves will lock in Rakan to start things off.
And I really like this because the Rakan sets it up for Afremu on this playmaking champion, but also it means that Cody-san can get to play something like the Xayah, and they can do a funnel strategy. Whereas TSM, they have yet to play something that's not a marksman or do a funnel strategy here. So Sven has played pretty much Ezreal, Kai'Sa, and Varus this split, and the question is TSM going to bring something new out here today? Because 100 Thieves, their best strategy previously, because they didn't even play this at Rift Rivals, was to funnel Cody. We saw none of that at Rift Rivals. The 100 Thieves, let's snap back to the NALCS, they're on a 4-game winning streak since they started funneling Cody and making it a strategy that is quite good for them.
Well, we will see the Xayah locked in to complement the Rakan. TSM picking up Talia in their first rotation. We will see that champion again. We saw it played to some pretty solid effect in the previous game. We'll see how well they can use it on the side of TSM this time around. Alistair also locked in over there, as Dr. Mundo will go where he pleases on the side of 100 Thieves.
The question is, are they just going to lock in another thing like the Darius here for TSM? Because right now, Hansar has not shown pretty much anything this split. 4 Aatrox games before the changes and 2 Dr. Mundo games. So Darius, the counter pick that you would assume would come through in that top lane, because Dr. Mundo, it was pretty much before in the last 2 weeks, Dr. Mundo was just like, oh, you blind pick him, he's fine. The matchups he loses, he doesn't lose them that hard. He cleaver farms under turret, he gets extra AD for last hitting with his E, so he should be able to just kind of sacrifice the lane. And the Darius will zone you, sometimes force you to fight if he freezes, and so it's a really good champion in terms of counter pick to the Mundo.
And you can see, generally when I see a champion with a stat like that, a win rate as high as 80%, that generally indicates to me it's not a general pick, and it is something you specifically use to counter another strategy.
Exactly, and that means that they had this kind of in mind. We just saw this matchup in the Echo Fox Counterlogic gaming game, and it did kind of decide the game from the top lane and trickle into other lanes. And they had the Talia in the mid lane, not the jungle, which we had seen it before for CLG. And this is looking very similar so far on TSM side to what CLG was playing, except you would sub out the Alistar for the Rakan.
Second part of the ban starting up as Galio is banned away by TSM. Varus banned out by 100 Thieves, targeting the 80 carry pool a little bit there, expecting Sven to stick true to his roots, not play any of those mages, instead going for the marksman type champions.
Kai'Sa's actually been pretty absent. Rageblade nerfs happened, but she's still a fantastic champion, even to funnel, but it looks like so far in our first 2 games, we've not seen her banned or picked.
We will see the Zoe ban that you were potentially expecting during the first ban phase. Did make it all the way through the first half of the picks, but will be taken off the table now as the final ban of the game for TSM. 100 Thieves with 5 seconds to respond with their last ban before TSM gets that next pick, and it's Shen that they're going to keep away from TSM support.
And this is an interesting position for TSM to be in, because 100 Thieves, they may have either their bottom lane or their funnel jungler plus mid lane locked in here. But the top lane is pretty ambiguous. I mean, I'm pretty locked in, sorry. The rest of it's ambiguous. So they could actually, 100 Thieves could lock in something that is a bottom lane combo here, and like a mage plus, I was gonna say Fiddlesticks, but like a bottom lane that has mage in it and a support, and try to just change things up and go back to the strategy that they had previously before Onda was on the roster.
See how they decide to play against this now, especially that they know their opponents have a Fiddlesticks, they have an Alistar.
Which means something different's gonna happen here for TSM. You have 2 quote-unquote supportive champions. So you might have a Talia plus Fiddlesticks bottom lane, and they're waiting for that mid lane pick to come through. And right here, 100 Thieves, this might just be funnel. I have seen some people play Assassin mid Pike. Don't think it's amazing,
Yeah,
but
I don't think you're gonna see that either. Not in professional play.
But it's Afromoo's Pike. He's somebody who was playing it before anybody else was really, and just jumped on that champion set. I really like it. Vladimir Pike bottom lane is what it's going to look like here, with a funnel once again potentially for Cody Sun in that mid lane. And I like this from 100 Thieves because they're funneling their marksman player, putting him in the mid lane, and they're taking their mid laner who plays mages normally and putting him in the bot lane. So it's not this marksman player that has to learn how to play Vladimir or Swain or anything like that. It's the mid laner who already played those champions who just has to learn how to shift it to the bottom lane.
You said, Zyrene, when we were talking about Rift Rivals, when we were talking about TSM, you said, I'm sure they were scrimming the EU teams. They weren't just sitting around. Well, TSM seems to have learned something here. They've learned about Heimerdinger Fiddlesticks. It didn't work so well for Echo Fox. We'll see if maybe TSM has cracked the code and learned something that the others did not, as they will be going up against the first Pike pick in LCS Summer. Afromoo is charged with making an impression on this champion, and honestly, if I had to pick a player to do it, it would probably be Afromoo.
Yeah, and Afromoo loves the playmaking, loves this champion, and it's a very slippery champion. The E is very good at making sure you can get away or get in, because the stun following, it means somebody's right behind you and you're trying to get away, them flashing after you does nothing. Like, they have to dodge it.
He's so hard to catch. He's such a little weasel sometimes.
It's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah, he's just really darn hard to get a hold of, but we'll see how Afromoo can try to outmaneuver, outplay his opponents. Jat did showcase some of the Heimer mechanics for us at the end of the last game, so we'll see how well executed those will be in the hands of Sven.
And I want to see what this looks like in the hands of Sven, like you said, because he was somebody who's only played marksman, somebody that it didn't look like there was adaptations going on, and TSM was a team that hadn't done a funnel yet. They were one of the only teams in the NALCS to not even attempt it on stage. Right now, though, Bjergsen has Smite. Grig is on Alistar. This is a funnel for Bjergsen on Taliyah, and then the bottom side has mages. Seems like TSM, they have been very effective with their off time, and they're coming into this game taking it very seriously as the one team that was tied for first place that didn't go to Rift Rivals.
And that's what TSM fans want to see, especially after the outcome of last split, which was TSM's first time not making it to the finals. They want to see a rebound. They want to see a bounce back. And this kind of adaptation, this kind of using your time to discover these new strategies and make sure you're mastering the meta as fast as everyone else is, very important.
And it also means that TSM fans at the end get to say, we didn't send the strongest teams to Rift Rivals. We had 4 teams at the top. TSM maybe should have been one that had gone, right, if they wanted to showcase the power of North America. And that would give them bragging rights here if they're able to take down 100 Thieves, who really did have a very lackluster tournament.
And this is also 100 Thieves' chance to show that all those roster swaps that were so controversial and so talked about were for the best. If they can come out and make an incredible showing here in their first game with the new roster, going up against one of the other teams that is tied for first, that's one way to inspire confidence in your fans, to say, stick with us on this, trust these decisions, this is going to work.
Exactly. It's kind of like, it's a process that eventually is going to work itself out here. And I wonder what's going to happen, because Bjergsen has Smite. He'll start on the red buff and then smite it, I would assume, because it's a funnel here where the Alistar will hold the lane.
Grig will hold Thieves are not just going to allow TSM to get that kind of a start free of charge, however.
Yeah, because they have 4 people here. 4 people strong. They just have the Vladimir bottom lane by himself. And it's funny because I thought originally that Aphromoo would be the Rakan because he loves that champion. It just seems like Pyke, he loves it a little bit more. So Aphromoo is going to be the person who's in the bottom lane alongside Ryu and playing that Pyke. Where Onda, the new guy, the jungler that they had picked up, is going to be the person funneling Cody's son, because the Xayah Rakan combo is one you do not want to break up.
And I honestly understand that just from a which player should do this perspective, because Aphromoo and Ryu have been playing together longer now, right? Onda's the new guy added to the roster, so if you want to have the most synergy possible, especially during laning phase in the bottom side, have the guys that have been playing together longer, have the guys that are more familiar with one another's tendencies and styles be next to each other for that first and critical part of the game.
Yeah, but another thing is, it means that later in the game, Onda's going to be in charge of the engage, and as the new person on the roster, he may not have that veteran voice, the shot-calling voice that's saying, let's go right now, and that's something that people think of when they think of Aphromoo, that leader who's not afraid to take the risk and make the engage happen. So he's going to look for some picks, but it's not going to be the same type of engage as you would have from somebody like the Rakan, the snap engage, we are fighting now type champion.
There's pluses and minuses to putting each player in either position, and obviously this is the one that 100 Thieves have opted for. This is what they think will be the recipe for success. They'll send their funnel towards that top scuttle crab as bottom side is Aphromoo making the pull onto Mithy, bringing him underneath the turret. Makes him take a turret shot there as well to try to keep this lane in a decent state. But Sven and Mithy will just keep this pushed up. It's one thing that we've seen before when we've talked about funnels and how to counter them and the strategies teams have found. One of the strategies that's worked is, hey, just pressure the side lane. But if Heimerdinger and Fiddlesticks are making it so their opponents are just stuck under the turret, constantly getting harassed, it's hard to do anything.
Yeah, it's very hard. And the silence is bouncing between the two of them. It's hard to last hit when that's going on. And it's interesting that I was just watching how Aphromoo was using the Bone Skewer. Before he used it on Mithy, but right there, he like threw it out, pulled a turret towards him. I believe he's trying to get the turrets off from pushing, or he's going to make it so that they're so far up that they are pushing automatically. And it's kind of interesting as well, because later in the game, if he goes for a Bone Skewer, if you're Heimerdinger, you can place down a turret to block it.
Yeah, and then it just pulls the turret towards Aphromoo. You're like, okay, sure, you got a turret. It's 5 gold.
Exactly. And you can store charges of that. So as long as you have 1 charge available to yourself when you store up to, I believe, 3, or have 3 out at a time, you can end up having a pretty easy time, or easier time, dealing with the Pyke than most champions if you can just block it.
Farm is staying pretty close between these two squads down here, 23 to 28. We'll get a little bit closer as long as Ryu's able to farm those up underneath the turret, but Grig wants to potentially make something happen here in the top side.
I like it. It's the support jungler
Days
gank.
Mundo. Nope, not gonna happen. As soon as the trophy connects, Grig's like, nah, I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah, but that means that Someday actually has a wave pushing towards Haunter, so Haunter can freeze this and just start getting more CS than Someday here. But Someday, I mean, we saw him. He was a beast right before Rift Rivals where he had to kind of sit on the bench. And there was a lot of kind of criticism of 100 Thieves, like, hey, why isn't Someday? And this guy was wrecking it. It's the reason they're on a 4-game winning streak. Is sure they did funnel, but Someday was looking like, in terms of score lines, he was getting funneled.
He was the guy, yeah, he was the guy who made the massive Jack save at the Nexus, the guy who found the 4-man stun when it looked like all hope was lost. Playing out of his mind up until Rift Rivals, where, like you said, he wasn't fielded as part of the roster, surprised a lot of fans. People were wondering where he was. Now that he's back, can he keep up that performance? Is the tempo, is all that momentum from before that little bit of a break week for him still here? We'll find out this game. He does have 38 compared to his opponent's 43 CS, so like you said, because that wave was pushing up, he does fall a little bit behind in terms of the farm, but nothing that's too big of a deal just yet. Sven wants to get himself back here in this bottom lane. Both Sven and Mithy do have those Inspiration Tree free stopwatches charging up. Those will be ready rather soon. And honestly, everybody on TSM except for Haunter has one of those. So TSM will have plenty of outplay potential through the stopwatches once we roll around to the 10-minute mark. And 100 Thieves has 3 of their own. So just the sheer amount of those we will see this game will result in some interesting fights once these two teams get into it. But right now, Zyrene, everybody's pretty content farming up.
Yeah, that's kind of how funnels work, is at the start of the game, everybody just kind of has a gentleman's agreement to farm up, get to 2 items, make sure you have your power spike on your funneler, and you're good to go. Some people break that rule, though, and I think that'll happen here for TSM, because funneling a Taliyah, her ultimate doesn't really matter in terms of damage or level. You kind of just use it to roam. And I assume that the Alistar Taliyah funnel is because Taliyah's already a good jungler and she's pretty self-sufficient in the jungle. Just get her more levels and experience, and then you can roam to side lanes, because Alistar doesn't do really much for the Taliyah except set up her knockback, which can be really, really powerful. But I'm just seeing this as a roaming squad. I'm expecting Grig and Bjergsen to start going to side lanes and like 3 or 4-man gank.
I'm starting to get Season 1 flashbacks for anybody watching that played that long ago, when support was, okay, Alistar, hit level 2, and now just walk around the map forever.
River Shen.
Trying to get, yeah, River Shen, except it was Alistar, and his only item the entire game was a Philosopher's Stone and a Heart of Gold.
Ah.
Old school.
Sometimes Cage is picked, too.
Oh, yeah, you get Cage. If you were really far ahead, if all the ganks were working out, then you could get Cage's pick. Old school items. Sven and Mithy will continue putting damage into this bottom lane tier 1 turret. Now, they've already got it down to 130 HP, 7.5 minutes in. They haven't got any help from their jungler, from their mid laner. No rotation so far. This is just the pressure of Heimerdinger and Fiddlesticks.
Yeah, the pressure, the fact that they both shove the wave, they poke very, very heavily. And honestly, the mana costs on those abilities are not that overwhelming either, where the Fiddlesticks E isn't really going to run you out of mana too quickly, whereas when you're playing Brand, the W does actually cost a decent amount, and you can run yourself out of mana pretty easily, especially for like the damage return, because if you miss it versus a point and click that's guaranteed with Fiddlesticks.
On to still level 5, Grig the same, so neither one of these two supports having that big ulti power just yet. Cody and Bjergsen both level 8 on these funneling champions. Onda wants to move down towards this bottom side. Remember, it is Infernal Drake first. We might see some fighting for that once either of these teams gets confident enough to make some sort of a play for it. I would expect that to be TSM before 100 Thieves with the amount of control they have over the bottom lane.
Yeah, and something that I'm noticing as well is mobility boots for Grig, first item. This is for him to run around, escort Bjergsen, go for plays, and right here, they have the mid lane shove. Are they going to go for the bottom lane, like you said? Because you said Infernal's up. Seems like a perfect time to actually go for that Drake.
Like you mentioned, Taliyah's a champion that's very capable of jungling. Does a lot of damage just shredding through the Infernal Drake's health bar. As long as she's got enough room to create more worked ground, she can get the objective very quickly, have Grig tank for it. Meanwhile, bottom side, I heard you like objectives. I got some objectives for your objectives. The tier 1 turret goes down in the favor of TSM. The Infernal Drake will join it shortly thereafter, just 9 minutes into the game. things are going according to plan for them.
And that was really good from TSM, because what they did is they used the map to their advantage. Blue buff was coming up for 100 Thieves on the opposite side, and it's all about efficiency when you're funneling. So Bjergsen and Grig knew that when they pushed up that mid wave, the next thing that Cody Sun and Onda had to do was answer the wave and then go to their blue buff if they wanted to keep that timer cycling. And so they were able to go to the opposite side of the map, pick up the Infernal Drake, and go for the turret. And the reason that Ryu and Aphromoo had to back up is because they don't have any vision in that area. They just saw Talia and Alistar go into Fog of War, and
Two of the deadliest roam champs there are.
Exactly. So it was really well played from a macro sense, because it was basically they were putting 100 Thieves in check. And 100 Thieves couldn't be aggressive. They had to move their king away.
TSM feeling good about these plays so far, up 1,500 gold with the bonus stats from the Infernal as well. Now seeing if they can make anything happen here in the mid lane. Mithy rotating around now. He's been freed up from needing to make sure he's staying bottom and applying that pressure with the turret already down. It's Sven who's made his way to the top side. He'll start pressuring this top side now against the Mundo, who's not going to have a super fun time trying to deal with Heimerdinger like that.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting funnel composition from TSM, because funnels are usually very focused on just making sure this one champion is very strong. This actually seems like a pressure funnel, where your champions aren't things like Lulu that are going to buff people up or Shen that are going to protect them. It's like these are engaged champions, Alistar and Fiddlesticks. When you rotate around the map and you have that pressure bottom Heimerdinger that gets you the turret, you start getting these turrets faster than your opponent. You start threatening engages from Fog of War, and you control vision harder. This is a very pressuring funnel composition that if you don't play against it correctly, you're probably going to have a lot of early deaths against it.
One thing I also like seeing, just talking about compositions in general, that word invokes discussions about damage types, about champion lineups, things like that. I really like to see the Grievous Wounds early from Haunter here. We saw that last game from Darshan. A lot of respect being paid towards the Mundo, and especially on a team where so much of your damage is magic damage, a Fiddlesticks, a Heimerdinger, a Talia. Without Grievous Wounds, Mundo's going to get health no matter how much stuff you're hitting him with. And I think that's just the best possible decision Haunter's been made there. Cannot applaud him enough for making sure they've got that early enough to always use it during those fights. There was... Hold on. I thought I for sure heard the stopwatch noise.
Onda.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking around to find the broken one. All right. Unfortunate there for Onda having to pop the stopwatch.
I don't have to.
Yep, he had to. It was necessary. It was there. It had to happen. It had to happen. Exactly. Sometimes you're up against Fiddlesticks. He's a little bit scary. He's been standing there. He is a scarecrow, Zyrene.
You're right.
I feel bad for that. I feel like Freak just saying.
I know.
That was not right. I apologize. Keeping on pushing up in the top
Yeah,
side.
like, he's dead. The ghost is coming and inhabited Flower's body. Get me out, man.
I had to do it for him. He died on a handless death. He's still here with us in spirit. Sven having to flash away now. Throws down the big old turret, looking to find some return damage. And some beams go through. And first blood goes over to TSM as the Ignite keeps on ticking, but Ryu's still kicking. Walks himself away, but TSM still go 1-0.
They engage on Sven. He throws down the ultimate turret. The ultimate turret doesn't do too much for him. It was mostly the follow-up. It was the skill shot coming through, plus the full W into them. It wasn't even the person that got feared that ended up dropping there.
Right when it looks like 100 Thieves might have found a spot to maybe punish Sven a little bit for all this pushing, it's immediately turned around by TSM, and their prize is another turret and all the gold that goes with it. A 2,000 gold lead now for TSM. This is a strong argument for what you were talking about earlier, too, saying, hey, we could have sent 4 of these teams tied for first. We sent 3 of these teams tied for first to Rift Rivals. Maybe we didn't send the right one. TSM's looking good.
And that was really good from Sven. He flashes the Phantom Undertow, throws down the turret, but then it's the E into the... That was all the rockets. That was all of them. We're talking about 55% damage with hitting one. How about 100%? 100 right in there.
Making the damage happen. TSM's Sven has the Luden's Echo on the Heimerdinger now, so that's that much more burst every single time he connects with one of those spells. Mobility boots completed for Mithy's Fiddlesticks to make sure he's able to rotate around this map just like Grig can.
You know what I'm having flashbacks of?
What do you have flashbacks?
Season 2 strategy where it was literally every 5-man mid pushes. Level 1. Where people played like Blitzcrank, Twisted Fate, Heimerdinger, and you had like all these champions that you just fish for hooks and try to pull the person in, then you like point and click stun them, right?
Just blast them.
It was that type of composition where people are all in their side lanes farming up and stuff, and then your mid laners 1v5ing. I feel like TSM can do that very effectively at this point in the game because the Heimerdinger will help you siege and shove waves constantly. You have two champions that are very good at starting the fights, and then the Taliyah for Bjergsen is one that can actually section people off and make these fights kind of in your favor, or the sieges in your favor. So I actually think when they start sieging, it's going to be very scary for 100 Thieves, and they have to kind of find the counter engage. But they are hitting some good item spikes here. There's almost a completed Zeal item for Cody-san, which will be a good kind of burst in damage for him. And the Spellbinder for Ryu, when he gets it, is one that Vladimir desperately needs, because right now you're looking at Sven, he's pretty far ahead.
And I also want to bring up an interesting point with the itemization from Cody-san. You can see the fully completed Skirmisher Saber with the Warrior Enchantment. And we've commented before watching funnel versus funnel, like true funnel with like 3 supports and 1 big carry in the mid lane. When you have the Red Smite, you can negate a lot of damage from the enemy team because 75% of the damage is 1 champion. And if you're blocking a 5th of that, it does quite a lot. But when the enemy team has multiple threats, when they have a Darius, when they have the Heimerdinger, when they have the Taliyah, the Red Smite isn't quite as effective at shutting down that single target damage deal.
Yeah, need to kind of figure out who's the one who's going to get the most damage off on you, and if you can even reach them with the Smite, because the Taliyah range versus the Smite range, I believe, is actually a little bit larger unless she's right up in your grill. So another objective here going over to TSM. And remember with funnels, you usually sacrifice dragons because it's not good tempo. Right. You're usually sacrificing early dragons. Funnel versus funnel, it's whoever knows kind of the map movements a little bit better here.
Which seems to be TSM.
But we'll see right here because they're actually going to collapse.
Mythy decides to go golden. Sven's going to do the same thing. Mythy tries to see you later, buddy. Throws him under the bus because he knows there's no way to keep him alive on that one.
From Ryu.
Trying to catch up on this one. Mythy still has the flash, but expending it here just means wasting it. Cody-san ends up grabbing the kill to take him down, and that's 2 for 0 for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, 100 Thieves back in it now, and they're going to be able to get this, which is really going to help them. The Rift Herald helps you get those turrets when you aren't really a siege composition, and they might be able to get mid-turret without having to deal with the Heimerdinger straight up, or actually deal with the siege potential that's coming through, because there's a lot of wave clear from TSM, not as much on the 100 Thieves side. They're kind of looking for the pass-through from Cody-san. Ryu on the Vladimir, you have to be closer to deal that, whereas the Taliyah Heimerdinger offers a lot from a very safe distance.
Rig finds himself caught a little bit here by Afromu in that bone skewer. Ryu will follow up with some damage, getting the Crimson Rush off of the transfusion to Someday. Gets himself away, uses his own stopwatch as well as the ulti to get out. Hanser having a flash out now
Ryu
as
has
well.
flash.
Bjergsen doing the same. Ryu wants to go in on these guys, does find the flash into the damage from the Tides of Blood. Bjergsen caught out next. Afromu going to be taken low, goes into the stopwatch. It's another one from TSM. Grig now critically low as well as Ryu does get taken down. Hanser grabbing the damage on that one. Now looking to find even more. Cody-san swoops in with the damage, but Mythy makes his way behind enemy lines. Cody-san still hanging on for now as Mythy needs a little bit more to find the kill. On the auto dashes away just in time. Someday's got no ulti, but he's still looking to run around and give him the trophy they don't want to take. There you go, not quite yet. Grig does get taken down. Someday finds the kill on that one as Mythy's running away now too. He's got Sven pushing in the top side. He's just buying time now, hobbling away with that goofy walking animation.
Oh my God.
What a bloodbath.
The game went from 0 to 100 real fast. What is going on? They siege the bottom lane. Someday almost dies, stopwatches, and then it just looks like there's 5 versus 4 that goes on. And there's shove from Sven in the top lane, who's not in attendance, and they still look for this fight. It just gets a little bit all over the place.
That was one of the crazier ones. Let's take a look at the Acer Predator replay here, see exactly how it all went down again with this flash from Ryu.
Yeah, Ryu went in with the flash, goes for Bjergsen. There's the stopwatch from Afromu. Gets a little bit away, comes back in, and then Ryu gets ignited. Didn't have the E going through. Cody-san finally shows up, tries to get the pass through. Big stopwatches. Boom, everybody's golden. It's a Midas touch fight right here. Mythy comes in, gets the fear, pushes that towards Bjergsen, but he actually doesn't get pushed completely in because I think Bjergsen dies right before, and so it stopped him from being shoved all the way in. And it's just this gigantic fiasco in the bottom side. Meanwhile, Sven's in the top, just chilling, doing Heimer stuff, and then Mythy gets away. It's like, don't hurry, it's my birthday. I love that Fiddlestick skin, by the way. That's my favorite skin.
The silly noises it makes are pretty fantastic, I'm not gonna lie.
It's also got that extra, like, makes my eye twitch when I get feared by a Fiddlesticks, and it's like, and I'm like, okay, come on, man, just let me reach you. Honk, come on. For like the 30th time in the game.
They're not going to have a fun time trying to reach him as the game continues. Level 9 on Mythi's Fiddlesticks does mean a maxed out Terrify, so max duration on that one, which I believe is, 2.25 seconds. On a targeted ability is incredibly effective CC for anybody who oversteps their bounds in these team fights.
Yeah, and no 3 cleanses this game.
No.
Like CLG had versus the Fiddlesticks. Even though Fiddlesticks was kind of like the only CC, it was Fiddlesticks Heimer, and they brought triple cleanse to make sure that they would never die in that bottom lane. And right here for 100 Thieves, they might have to buy some QSSs later. There's one already on Cody Sun to make sure that doesn't happen again. Ryu looking to flank this fight, though.
Here comes your channel. Tides of Blood goes down, able to drop the Chemo Plague onto Deuce, then being one of them. Bjergsen going to be caught out here. A lot of damage onto him. Cody Sun blowing him up immediately. And 100 Thieves seem to have found their stride here in the mid-game.
And that's interesting because Bjergsen's a lot of the damage. Now Sven, Hans are kind of the ones that have to take up the reins. And 100 Thieves, the Baron just spawned. The smite is down. I think they're just going to go for push here. Try to go for 2 charges off of Shelly.
Shelly rearing to go for another one. There we go. Kapow! Takes down 60% of the turret's health just like that. As
they got Grig.
Finish off the rest. Grig using the ultimate to keep himself alive. Not too worried about going down there, but forcing out that ulti severely restricts his playmaking potential until it's back up. Alistair going in without the defensive capabilities of that ult. Oh, way too risky.
Yeah, it's really risky. And on the other side, you're talking about playmaking ability. Onda's about to have flash up. It's up in 4 seconds here, which gives him the opportunity to have that snap engage. When Baron's up, that's what you want to be doing, getting snap engages onto the Fiddlesticks or the Heimerdinger. What Fiddlesticks is about to have, he does have his Zonia's Hourglass completed, whereas Sven, he's not even going for it. It's Deathcap's second item here. So the Heimerdinger is actually a prime target to go for if you are Onda on that Rakan.
Absolutely. Being able to just blow him up at the start of the fight. Yes, he can still place down the big turret. He can still get some damage off. But bottom side, it's Sunday, who's now finding himself eating a whole lot of damage. Apprehend pulls him back
3 people.
into the fight,
That's
and
3
there
people.
you go. TSM brings 3 to the bottom side to pick off the enemy top laner. What's the response from 100 Thieves? What do you do with this information? They're hanging around the Baron pit. They're looking to find some vision, but they won't start the objective themselves. And now it's Hans or Bottom who will be able to push up, take down this tier 2 turret, put more money in TSM pockets, and they bite back.
Yeah, that was 3 people bottom on Sunday. They were in position for Baron. They start it, half them start it, and then they just stop it. And they don't even actually do the Baron at all, or even start it up past a certain point where people were kind of just tickling it for a little bit. There's a hesitant play there where I believe it's because there was a teleport and that Bjergsen was there, and Talia gets to places really quickly.
Ocean Drake live now. That's the second Ocean Drake this game. 3rd elemental overall. TSM with complete control over that so far. We'll see if 100 Thieves end up putting themselves in a spot where they can contest that as time moves on. But the big contest right now, the name of the game, seems to be that Baron area. Ryu wanting to use the Predator to get himself away. Has to flash out of the seismic shove as well. Bjergsen puts that one down just right as Ryu will get himself out.
There's a really good use of the Spellbinder there. I don't think I've seen it for escaping a lot. It's mostly when you know you're going to be going in. So there's a really good use of Predator and a really good use of the Spellbinder on top of that. So I actually have to commend Ryu for that escape because it was really well done, especially since you play in Vladimir mid, you usually had something like Ghost to back you up, or you were running Predator. Sometimes
remember back in the olden days before all these items got changed around and Vladimir almost always wanted to take Ghost just because it's like, hey, I got to get in there. But now you've got Predator. We've seen Vlad's build things like Shirelia's Reverie. We've seen things like the Spellbinder. There's so many different tools that the champion has to speed himself up and make it so he can do maneuvers like that.
Yeah, and I thought it was strange because Vladimir became a bot laner and Predator actually, people stopped taking it on him. They started taking things like the electrocute a little bit more frequently. I saw like parry every now and then, but just seemed like he wants to flank because he knows how to do it. But look at that, Afro dead.
Oh, Afro just instantly getting himself deleted. Onda tries to respond with initiation of his own myth. He's going to be taking very low, survives for an extra second. But so far, it's 1 for 1. Hanser goes into a stopwatch now to buy himself a little bit more time, but he's still deleted. Someday grabbing the damage on that one as 100 Thieves will also take down Grig. It's Bjergsen and Sven against the world as they kite themselves backwards. 2 fantastic champions for the job. Cody Sun getting himself out now. 100 Thieves will walk away with a 3 for 1 fight.
3 for 1, and that's Afromu dying at the beginning of it, but there's just all these stopwatches where
I never know when they're going to end.
I know. And I mean, neither does Mithy, because he threw it down there, and he ended up dying literally like the frame that the Hemo Plague went off. And so he just dies to just coming out of the
No,
stopwatch.
I don't mean the duration of the stopwatch. I mean, when are we finally going to run out of stopwatches and inventories? Because I thought we ran out of them 5 minutes ago, and I'm still seeing top laners go golden.
Yeah, that's the one where Darius went golden. I was like, oh, okay, we're still playing that game. All right. Cool.
We're still there.
Because there's 2 stopwatches, or I guess 2 hourglasses completed, and then we're free flowers. There's no more. There's no more left. People might buy some. But Bone Skewer to flip Mithy to the other side. And then Aphromoo gets locked up before he can Phantom Undertow. And then it was a really good ultimate and lock up there onto Mithy. And then Mithy gets out and he just dies. And on the right side of the fight, though, this is where they get to regroup, because Cody Sun had so many feathers. The pull-through damage there onto Hanser and Grig, who went for the backline there. They just both get eviscerated, and it made it that 3-for-1.
There was almost nothing that Mithy was even able to contribute in that team fight. Fiddlesticks not ulting during a team fight, it just feels really terrible for him and his team. And 100 Thieves did a great job of shutting that potential down there and counter-engaging when it looked like they might have been in a really bad spot. Now they continue to push up the mid lane. Cody Sun, with a little bit of firing time onto this turret, is all he needs to secure that first tier 2 here for his team.
And this has been the winning strategy for 100 Thieves.
Funnel Cody.
They didn't play it at Rift Rivals at all. They played like a Funnel Levi composition. They played like a Misfortune at the bottom lane. They never funneled Cody. And so they had this awful record with that lineup and with the strategies they were using. But they're 4-0 in their last 4 games. And they're looking to make that the 5-game streak here up against TSM that's tied with them in the standings, which would be huge. And it's showing that that's the winning formula, is Cody plus the other guys working for them at the end of last split.
Plus the other guys, which remember, happens to include a brand new name on this roster with Onda showing up. And so far, yeah, another guy that happens to be sitting at 8 out of 9 kill participation with 0 deaths so far. Onda's having a good showing in his first LCS appearance here at 100 Thieves.
Yeah, he is actually having a really good showing. And I was about to kind of comment on the fact that the Rakan has to be in charge of the engages, and he got a really good mid-fight kind of counter-engage there and was able to lock up Mithy before he was able to hourglass very early on in it. Has the Zeke's convergence at a pretty reasonable time, and he's actually gotten a ton of gold from his support item. When I look across support items, there isn't always really a good kind of judge of like, oh, how much is a lot? But I'm looking at Aphromoo, he has 1,100 from it. Then if you look at Mithy, he has 1,000. And on Rig, he's got 1,300. Onda has 1,700. So he's been running around,
a lot of money,
making sure he's getting all these cannon minions and being involved in all these fights. Very present. But look at that, Ryu hold in on the back line, but it's just going to be a disengage here. Mithy's looking for the perfect ultimate. Let's watch him.
No chance to do it just yet.
Whose party? Mithy? Whose birthday is it?
Right now, 100 Thieves feels good about blowing that Alistar ultimate. They know that they've got that off the table here for the next minute or so. That's your window to try to force something. Make one of these team fights happen as Onda jumps towards Cody Sun, looking to make his engage. Forces the flash out of Sven. Good summoner spell pop there.
Happy birthday!
Mithy wishes happy birthday to a minion wave, and now we'll see where the fight goes. It's Cody Sun in some trouble. The shutdown goes over to TSM. They find both of the duo as now 100 Thieves stand 3 versus 5, and TSM heads to Baron.
Yeah, absolutely. Baron time. But Ryu may be the person who throws the wrench in the spanner here. Or the wrench in the works. Man. Anyway, Ryu, he's on the flank right now.
Ryu's got to be the hero of the day. He's got Aphromoo ready to help him. He's got Someday full HP here on the Mundo as well. Giving away the Baron right now could be serious trouble. TSM going to make something happen. There goes your Hemo Plague. Flash over the wall into the Tides of Blood here as well. Ryu still looking to make the damage. Gets a massive heal. It's still TSM able to find the Baron. But at what cost? It's Mithy taken down next. Bjergsen just gets the hell out of town. He realizes there's no salvation for his teammate as 100 Thieves will collapse. It's Baron to TSM, but it's 4 kills over to 100 Thieves. And with only 1 man commanding the buff, you can't set up a split push with Baron. You can't get full use out of that. 100 Thieves makes the best out of a bad situation.
And this is exactly why when I see a bottom lane marksman player play Vladimir, and there's a mid laner that's fully capable of playing the Vladimir, just having to move to a different lane, I want to see the mid laner play that damn champion because they pull off flanks like that. Marksman instincts are everybody create space for me. Vladimir is a space creator who's supposed to find flanks in the fight, navigate them appropriately, and cause as much havoc and chaos as possible. That's exactly what Ryu does here. At first, Mithy looks like he's targeting him, then he's forced to blow Flash because he swaps targets to Cody. Cody drops, Onda drops, and it's a 5v3 when they started off. And this is perfect. You see Afromu is off on the right side, making sure that everybody's kind of herded up to the top left, and they're waiting for it. Mithy is waiting to maybe fear Ryu. But Ryu goes in, throws down the ultimate, channels the E on top of it, and tries to hit as many people as possible. He doesn't actually get the most optimal E, and that could have been even more devastating for TSM. But the fact that he gets multiple people with the Hemo Plague is scattering everybody and forces these two sectioned off fights where Afromu basically gets to 1v2, 1v3 on the side. He creates a good amount of space for his team. That's what I love seeing from a Vladimir player.
Now 100 Thieves, even though their opponents got the Baron, are not in a spot where they're on the back foot. They're not defending against multiple lanes, multiple waves being enchanted with the buff, pushing into them at once. Bjergsen's the only one who can really give that blessing to the minions, and the Thieves feel confident still pushing up into enemy territory. Hanser will be on split push duty right now for TSM, but it looks like the team's calling him back. They're saying, hey, we got 100 Thieves knocking at the door. Let's make sure we don't put ourselves in a bad spot where we lose an inhib for free.
Exactly. Make sure that they don't have all this split pushing happening on them. But right now, there's kind of a scattered map, 6 turrets to 3, where TSM, they haven't been able to really get into the base just yet. They still have that middle tier 1 that they haven't cracked. Despite them getting the first 2 turrets on the outside very early on, now they finally have been able to get themselves back into a siege situation because 100 Thieves got back in this game off team fighting. But look at that. They're going to try to start another. There's Ryu on the flank.
Onda going in. Ryu trying to come around from behind. Griggs already going to be about half HP. Haunts are going to be taken below half now as well. Someday continuing to look for some sort of a flank. Pops the Gargoyle Stone Plate, wanting to go in even further. Ryu having a damage off the side as Sven will now be taken incredibly low, bursted down by Cody Sun. Bjergsen trying to escape.
Give him the
cup. Volleys, but here comes the trophy. He's saying, I heard you missed this one back in spring. Let me give it to you now as Bjergsen's going to be caught in between 5. The ultimate will not come through for the Pike, but it does not matter. The shutdown over to Ryu.
And that was just a complete surrounding. That's a situation where you are panicking. TSM are running for the hills, but the hills are already occupied. 100 Thieves had them with the TP flank, with the fact that Ryu was coming in from the side, didn't even have to use his TP that time. So they're just going to have to be in a situation where that happens again. TSM feel like they have the upper hand. Onda comes in from the right, Ryu from the north, and then you have Someday coming in from the north as well. Hits Sven. Now they're slowed. They have to regroup. Oh, this is just so brutal to watch because section off to the right side. Ryu doesn't give a damn about the Alistar. Goes to the left, almost blows up Mithy here and instantly QSS's, but right there, they're already in the base. Those are long death timers because Bjergsen, he's already at that point in the game where he's level 17, level 18. Long death timers the higher level you are.
He's still got 3 seconds left to respawn as the Thieves make out like bandits, taking 2 enemy inhibitors down, getting everybody out safe. And now they've got a clean path to victory, Zyrene. With 2 inhibs down, you set up shop in the remaining lane. You continue to push to pressure towards that. And the Thieves have to be feeling confident now, up 7,000 gold. Look at the itemization, too, on Cody Sun. Nearly full build, 6 items for this funneled Xayah.
Yeah, he's very, very close to having that just full build. Bjergsen's also in that same area, though, because they have a large amount of CS for this time in the game. There it is, the Maw completed. But what I'm looking at is all these wards in the jungle from TSM. You see 100 Thieves wards that are in the north and inside of the base near the inhibitor that's dead. These are all flank wards that Ryu can utilize. So wherever you're going, you're going to be able to potentially get the Vladimir in the fight, especially that one that's by the inhibitor in the mid lane.
You've got those, you've got so many ways to just keep track of where these guys are. And not only is it providing opportunity for your guys to make the flank, these are go-away Mithy wards. These are don't you jump over the wall and give us that surprise party that we don't want anything to do with, which is so important when you're playing up against Fiddlesticks. This is one of those lessons you learn after a couple solo queue losses to Fiddlesticks. You've got to watch the flanks. You've got to watch over those walls. And now 100 Thieves will push up in that last remaining inhibitor turret lane. Someday on the side, just ready to continue to throw those cleavers in, provide what harass he can, as the rest of the team will shove those minions up. But there's a lot of clear on the side of TSM.
Yeah, and we talked about how for TSM, they could say, hey, no, we didn't send the best team to Rift Rivals or one of our best teams to Rift Rivals. 100 Thieves could say, neither did we.
Yeah.
We had a roster situation
we were
that was
experimenting with some things.
resolved, and that they can just go, yeah, this was the roster that was ideal for them or that they wanted to be able to send out there with the strategy of funneling Cody that has worked for them time and time again in the NALCS.
And you said it, 100 Thieves' performance at Rift Rivals may not have been impressive, but before that, they were on a domestic win streak that they're looking to extend to 5 games if they can close this one out here against TSM. Monster cannot find the apprehend he was looking for against Someday.
That's one of those ones where you go like, doesn't even use the ult. Felt like his apprehend was a little bit smaller than Darshan's. I feel like Darshan had like extendo range on that.
Bonus apprehend range, but Someday not even having to pop the ult. He's got the Warmogs on Mundo, so he'll regenerate fully anyway. 100 Thieves is still full strength, pushing up here. Baron spawning in 20 seconds. Elder Drake spawning in 30. Both teams with 2 Elemental Drakes mean it's going to be a sufficient buff for either side to get a massive damage bonus. TSM just stuck in their own base right now. There's no way out. This is full out defense mode. They know that one more big lost fight is going to be gained.
Yeah, and Ryu, he pushed the bottom wave, the last wave that really would be pushed into the turrets that they have for the last inhibitor, and that's the Baron being swept out here. TP from Ryu to reach the Baron as they're starting it up already.
I like this from Ryu. Wants to make sure he's there right at the start of the fight. Mithy channels the ultimate over the wall, but it's going to be secured by Cody. No miss smite here today. Mithy already having used the Zonias now has to find himself some way at the mid as Ryu's into the background, also finding the damage down onto Zin. Grig drop to Cody's son as Afromu brings down the dunk onto Mithy. Support kills support. As 100 Thieves have managed to find kills onto 3. It's Haunter and Bjergsen versus the world. Ooh. But that world is crashing down around them as Haunter goes down. He takes Afro with him. Bjergsen's the last to fall. It's a double kill for Cody's son. And 100 Thieves will find the win.
It was close. It wasn't clean. But at the end, 100 Thieves are able to take down TSM.
100 Thieves will extend that win streak to 5 games. They will take down one of the other teams tied for first place, and they will show that the roster might be new, but the Thieves are up to their same old tricks. A solid 36-minute win.
And that puts 100 Thieves that much further ahead in the standings, having the head-to-head over TSM with that 1-0 and going up above them. But that's what you want to see. The 5-0 win streak has started for them. They said week 1 is a fluke, write that off. We didn't completely understand all the strategies. Now we come in, we've got a strategy that people have shown they don't know how to deal with it just yet. That's funneling Cody.
And this was, remember, the roster shakeup that had fans scratching their heads saying, wait, you guys are at the top of the standings now. You're making a roster switch up when you're in a 4-way tie for first. I'm not sure how this is going to work out. That's the kind of game where you say, it's okay, you can trust us on this. Because that looked damn good. Onda looked damn good on those recon engages and counter engages. Worked well with the entirety of the team, and they just made it happen as a unit.
And it's good to see him back on the stage there, but for TSM, that last fight was really close. Haunter almost got dunk reset after dunk reset, but it was the Vladimir pull from Ryu into the Zhonya's Hourglass from Ryu that canceled it twice, so he didn't get a reset. He almost killed Cody on top of it. That was almost a salvage fight for TSM. It was very close, but they ultimately lost it, and you have to give props not just to Cody's son, but Someday seems to step up in these situations when he's not getting attention, and then Ryu on the Vladimir really bringing and swinging the game back into their favor when it looked like it was going to go back to TSM.
Awesome win from 100 Thieves, but now we're going to send things down to Avali and the new jungler for 100 Thieves.
Thanks, guys. Onda, congratulations. A welcome win for you onto 100 Thieves. How has the transition to the team been?
The transition was really good. 100 Thieves have been treating me really well. Moved into a really nice house, obviously, with our Rocket Mortgage house. And then, yeah, they've been giving me everything I need to succeed. Yeah.
And with a new team, what kind of opportunities do you see for yourself at 100 Thieves?
The biggest one was like the team has really good communicators in Ryu and Afromu, and that's something I kind of like, I guess. So I think, yeah, that just makes it easier for me to succeed, and I think we can do really well as a team.
Has there been anyone who's been maybe the most welcoming to you so far?
I guess just Cody, because we're just friends for a long time, so yeah.
Well, congratulations again on your win, and for more on the game, let's hear from the desk.
Thank you very much, Avli. 100 Thieves picking up the victory here over TSM following struggles at Rift Rivals, but debuting the roster that they had intended to start following the trade, Onda and Meteos. There were a lot of questions surrounding what would be the strategic choice or decision of 100 Thieves with Onda in the roster here in Game 1 with him in the mix. Cody Sun Funnel still the answer.
Yeah, and of course they have to switch things around a little bit. Aphromoo playing Pyke in the bot lane with Ryu as opposed to sticking Onda down there, which is what they were doing with Meteos before, but largely still the same strategy. The Xayah Rakan is a great combination for 100 Thieves. It's what they got a lot of their wins on last split as well, and so they're kind of continuing to do that.
Yeah, and you also look at TSM's answer to it with the Taliyah and Alistair. That's a stronger pushing lane and a stronger roaming lane, and then TSM has winning lanes in the bot lane and top lane. So classically, this is very much an early game versus a late game team comp. Extremely so. You very rarely get 3 lanes that are so clearly winning, and TSM won the laning phase, but did not snowball the game hard enough to win the game.
You hear people always say, don't give up 3 losing lanes because it's going to be horrible for your jungler. It's like you got 3 losing lanes and no jungler because you're funneling. So I don't know what 100 Thieves are supposed to do in the early game here other than do their best to withstand it.
And they did withstand it to a degree, although I do want to point to that bot lane because once again we see a Heimerdinger picked up for the side of TSM. This time around, Sven showing a little bit better than Altec did.
Yeah, and you could see them getting the turret very early on. They had a stronger command of the champion and of the lane than we saw in the first game where Echo Fox actually did play Heimer Fiddle as well. I got to watch Sven landing some of the turret beam combos in laning phase as well as there where you're putting the E out, then placing a turret to get the first shot to be a beam. And he actually double beamed right there because he landed his W afterwards. So Sven knew how to play the pick, but the team was just not aggressive enough.
All right, so that's where we get to how Onda fit in with 100 Thieves and ultimately helped them along to victory here because as was mentioned, the early advantages fell in favor of TSM, but the team fights and skirmishes through the mid and late went in favor of 100 Thieves.
I mean, double ER flash W, that looks pretty good to me. I think that's a great mechanical play following up on Ryu, who was probably calling that, who had that flank position.
Yeah.
And like you kind of hear in the interview, being able to follow up on people who have a large voice on the team makes your decision-making easier, and it's much easier to slot in.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important game for 100 Thieves to win. You're up against TSM, who's historically pretty high in the standings. They were actually coming into the day tied for first. He missed that engage, but I think that was more of a quick flash away from Sven. And to jump in after all of the criticism the public threw at that trade, saying it was a clear downgrade that Onda is in for Meteos, to come in, play pretty well on Rakan, which is not a jungle champion, is something he's probably had to learn recently, is really important for the confidence of this team moving forward.
Right, to grab the victory in the face of another 4-2 team. It's not like they're playing the last place team in the league. It's not an easy step up here for 100 Thieves on the LCS stage, but ultimately, Mark, how did you feel about the performance put forward?
Looking at it from the TSM perspective, it was just very disappointing. I mean, we talk about the 3 winning lanes, we talk about the roaming advantages. You saw how many times Mundo was pushed under the turret, the Vladimir was pushed under the turret. Where was the dives? Like, that's what this comp needs to do. You're going to get outscaled by Mundo and Xayah Rakan, that you have no hope later on in the game. They never made that play.
But Jad, TSM is always this team that faces so much criticism for being, you know, kind of obstinate and refusing to accept change or change quickly with the way the game is. Well, here they go. They choose winning lanes. They go with a funnel strategy. They got Heimer in the bot lane. The loss still comes through.
And I think the draft was great, right? As far as just in a vacuum, nameplates off, these 5 champions, you win early game, you win all 3 lanes, you run the Rift Herald properly, you kill the outer turrets, you do all those things. Right. People complain about League being formulaic, but you still have to do it really well. And there's 2 sides to this coin, because if we compare last game's Mundo from Huni with all the negative masteries like taking Demolish and conditioning, all these late game masteries, Someday took all the early game ones like bone plating and second wind to withstand the laning phase. And then on top of that, TSM was not very proactive, as Mark was saying in the early game. And this is why they don't pick 3 winning lanes and try and snowball early game, because that team is so much better off playing like 100 Thieves, where you're picking a better late-game team-fighting team, withstanding the pressure, and then taking over late game.
The one thing I'll say is I like seeing TSM try this. I don't like that it didn't work. It clearly was, they failed to execute on their win conditions in this draft. But if you think back, I kind of mentioned at the top of the game, they used to play Galio in the mid lane with Bjergsen. Everyone was like, why are you putting Bjergsen on Galio? It's not a carry champion. You have one of the best carry players in the league. They sucked with it for like 3 weeks, and then they figured it out. Hanser started playing Camille, and they started smashing people. And Galio Camille became a must-ban against them. And I hope that this is a similar thing here where, like, okay, your first Heimer game, your first funnel game, not so great, whatever. stick with it, because I want to see them build out their strategy pool.
TSM's next game tomorrow is against Echo Fox, who we already saw lose their first game of the day today. Do we feel like that? How different is that matchup than the matchup against 100 Thieves? And would you, Jap, be more comfortable with TSM running this same kind of draft into Echo Fox, or do you think they should go back to that withstand that you said?
Probably more comfortable with them picking early game against Echo Fox, just watching the way that Echo Fox plays. But it's actually more on whether or not TSM can execute, because you either can snowball an early lead to victory or you can't.
Yep.
And they right now can't.
All right, fair enough. Coming up next, it's Clutch Gaming versus Golden Guardians, where Kobe, Hooney, and DeMonte will be casting the game from the NALCS Lounge on Riot Games 2. Meet us back here for Game 3 after the break.
He's still here with us in spirit. As Sven having to flash away now, throws down the big old turret, looking to find some return damage as the beams go through.
Middle. I need help. Okay. Take us out. Help me. Take us out. Back. Let me know that.
One, Hanser goes into a stopwatch now to buy himself a little bit more time, but he's still deleted. Someday grabbing the damage on that one as 100 Thieves will also take down Grig.
High question. I'm on side. Yeah. You got it. Go on, Rakan. Nice.
There goes your Hemo play, flash up the wall into the Tides of Blood here as well. Ryu still looking to make the damage, gets a massive heal. It's still TSM able to find the Baron, but at what cost? As 100 Thieves have managed to find kills on to 3. It's Haunter and Bjergsen versus the world. Ooh. But that world is crashing down around them as Haunter goes down.
The sub above difference is daily, not shredded last night or baked yesterday afternoon. Good ingredients, prepped fresh every day. Because that's what daily means. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.